Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service here in beautiful Hernando County. A little cloudy this morning, rained pretty hard in parts of the county yesterday, but still nice. And joining me today are my two regular co-hosts, Colby Pitts, who is the Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, and one of our Master Gardener volunteers, Bernie. So, welcome everybody. We are here for you today. If you have any questions, comments, you want to know anything about lawn and garden problems, vegetable garden, trees, fruit trees, water, lawns, like the background picture behind all of us here, lawns that maybe don't look quite as pretty as you want them to. We will do our very best to answer your questions. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it out for you. Because I don't know everything, guys. I'm sorry. Good morning, Bassem. So, good morning, guys. How are we doing today?
Really doing pretty well.
Good.
I'm doing all right. Uh, it's been busy over here at the utilities department. We got especially over in water resources, we got a lot on our plate right now.
Yeah. I guess you guys stay quite busy over there with the county growing as quickly as it is. Water issues come up. So,
Mm-hmm.
Bill, good morning. How are you? I had to pop by our Master Gardener nursery yesterday, and Bill was over there buying some plants, some nice Florida friendly plants. So thank you. And Buddy up in the Panhandle. Good morning. I'm sure it's been pretty hot up there and rainy on and off. I know here in Hernando County yesterday afternoon, and I haven't had a chance to check to get any more information on it today. But as I understand, a really bad line of thunderstorms came through. They blew over my house in Spring Hill, and it just rained a little bit, but it was dark and scary and windy for a bit, and then moved on towards downtown Brooksville. And they had a lot of high winds there, a lot of tree branches blown down. I'm not sure how extensive the damage is, but if you live well, really, no matter where you live, but especially in older towns, and maybe you have very, very large old oak trees, those things need maintenance. They can live for a very long time, but they're not going to live neglected for a long time. You need to call an arborist and have them come out and check your trees, remove any dead branches, thin them some, give them some maintenance, give them some love, because it seems like every time we have a hurricane, you'll see on the news about how a huge tree fell on somebody's house, maybe a mobile home, maybe a car, might have injured somebody. And if I always look really closely at the picture of the tree that broke, and a lot of times it's an old laurel oak or a water oak and had huge trunks, and one of them was totally rotted inside and it snapped off and now caused a lot of damage. So, preventative maintenance, guys. And if you wait until the hurricane is headed this way, you're not going to get anybody out. The tree people get really, really busy right before a storm, then obviously after a storm, helping people, remove down trees and recover from damage. So why don't you plan on finding an arborist and calling them this week to come out and inspect your trees if you have large old ones, and that way you're sure that they're as safe as they can be when the storms do come.
I really think it's very interesting. People don't think when they plant the trees, if the tree is planted where it can fall on your house, it's probably in the wrong place. So that violates rule number one: right plant, right place. And second, so many of these trees get damaged with string trimmers. So the tree's fairly young. The bark is very supple and easy to get damaged, and uh, so the tree loses some bark. Nobody pays any attention to it. The tree grows up. It's been growing for 20 years now with damage right at the soil line. And then one day, some little mushrooms pop up around the base of the tree, and then one day, not too long after that, the tree's laying on the garage or laying on the house, but it does fall down. So, you know, uh, using Roundup to clean around the trees is a very, very satisfactory way to do things. Roundup won't hurt the trees because it only affects green things. So if you spray it around the bottom of the tree, it doesn't hurt the tree. It's only on the bark, and the tree tolerates that very, very well. But if you damage those trees at the ground line, you're just definitely asking for problems later on. And where I used to work at the airport, stopped by the other day, and there's a big mushroom growing out of the bottom of one of the trees right by the entrance. And that tree is going to fall on somebody's car. So I think I've got them convinced that it needs to go, and they're going to take it out this week. But uh, if you don't pay any attention, if you never go around and look at the plants when all these things start happening, that's your problem.
Yeah.
You have a responsibility to go out and look at all the landscaping. You need to check and see if I got bugs, if I got fungal diseases, if I got some other kind of disease, which, we have viruses and bacteria that affect the plants around here. And once a week is wonderful. Once a month, I would think would really be the minimum. And if you never do it, then don't be surprised when there's an oak tree laying across your roof. And as one of the people that had an oak tree lay across the roof of a shed, I'm out a $10,000 shed. It just destroyed it, broke all the roof rafters, broke the framing in the
Wow.
one wall of the building. It was amazing the damage that it did, and it was only one really large branch. So, uh, and it was a laurel oak, and uh, unfortunately, that was very early in my master gardener days, and I wasn't aware of the fact that laurel oaks are very short-lived, and if they have multiple trunks, that almost guarantees that one of the trunks is going to fall. So uh, you need
Exactly.
to
And if you don't know about those things, you need to contact an arborist and have them look at it, because they could tell you, is it a live oak, a laurel oak, a water oak? They're all different. People might think, well, every oak tree lives for 300 years, right? Well, not necessarily. And a lot of times those problems, a good arborist can look at it and identify those problems where, most homeowners, they look at the tree, and if it has leaves and is standing up, I mean, if you're not an arborist, you don't know these things. Since we're getting into storm season, I'll try to get a local arborist on here to join us one Thursday morning really soon to kind of share from an arborist perspective what people should do, and how often they should get their trees looked at and maintained so that everybody is safe. And a lot of times these things are avoidable.
Oak trees tend to be a real problem in that squirrels love oak trees, love acorns.
Mm-hmm.
And squirrels tend to take the acorns to anything else in the area that they can, and eat their acorns, hide their acorns, and the next thing you know, the viburnum that's off in the corner of the ligustrum or something has an oak tree growing in it. And eventually, this oak tree becomes a fairly good sized oak tree, and you say, well, I probably ought to take that out. And of course, mom says, no, I like that tree. I don't want to ever cut down a tree. And eventually this tree becomes a monster. It's now tall enough that it's right where it's going to do some damage if it falls. And unfortunately, uh, the next person that buys the property, the tree gets up to be 30 years old. And after 30 years old, a laurel oak, you just can't trust them. They have a life of from 30 to 50 years. Uh, if they're where they can't do any damage, it seems like they live forever. If it's where they can do some damage, it seems like they fall quicker. So uh, I don't know what the rule is on that, but I'm sure there's like a Murphy's Law on trees. And oaks tend to hybridize. So if you have oaks in the neighborhood, you have a turkey oak. Well, turkey oak will hybridize with a live oak, and that'll give you this little cross that has both kind of leaves on the same tree, and it's amazing. And of course, that hybrid will hybridize with either one of those two trees again, and it just keeps going, and the hybrids become uh, the dominant trees, and some of those hybrids are very, very strong, excellent trees. Some of those hybrids are not, and for an inexperienced person to go out and look at an oak tree and be able to tell you anything about it honestly is almost impossible. You can generalize and say that's probably a live oak, or that's probably a turkey oak, or that's a live sand oak, or whatever, but you can't really be positive unless one, you're very clairvoyant and can talk to trees, or two, uh, you've actually done some scientific work and know the history of the trees. But our native live oaks so often are hybridized, and they usually end up hybridized with the laurel oaks, and you can't really tell them apart. But
Yeah.
the you know, if the tree ends up it's wider than it is tall, then it's probably mostly live oak. If it's taller than it's wide, then it's probably mostly laurel oak.
But that takes a lot of years to happen also. It has
It
to be
does.
pretty big
It
to really stand out like that.
30 to 40 years before
Yeah.
you really know what's going on. And at that time, it may be too late. If you've got a live oak planted on a half-acre lot, that tree is going to eventually be way too big, because that tree itself will encompass better than a quarter of an acre underneath it. So, how much of your lot can you attribute to one tree? And so it a little proper planning. If a tree just pops up and you let it go because it's there, you could end up. I had a little tree when I bought the property. It was about 6 foot tall. I had no idea what it was. Let it go, and it's now 65 feet tall, and it's a cedar tree. It's a beautiful tree, but it's actually in the wrong place. So if I had known then what I know now, I'd have taken the tree down, and my wife would have been very unhappy.
Okay, here, let's go through a couple of comments and questions here. Hazel, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we have some brand new people here who've never been on the clinic before. If you are brand new, if you have any kind of question or comment, just go ahead and put it in your comments, whether you be watching us live on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll go ahead and show them. Like I said, we'll do our best to answer them. Alessandra brings up a point from last week about growing capers. And you can grow capers here, but you need to pickle them or put them in a salt brine to be edible. That's a lot like olives. We can grow olives here, but you can't go out to your olive tree and pick an olive and eat it like you would a peach. It has to be brined, and I don't know how to do that. I don't have olives. I've never lived in Italy. I don't have olives in my yard. I do like capers, though. I would think that capers, because they're like a Mediterranean climate, are probably still going to have some issues during the heat of summer when it's very hot and very, very steamy. And Joe Lynn asks, are there any local resources for testing for citrus greening? He moved here from Ohio and was excited to plant citrus. I'm afraid I was ignorant of how big a problem it is. I have several trees which display the curled asymmetrical leaves. That's when the leaf starts to get the yellow patches on it. I initially thought it was stress from planting. Would having an arborist out be the best move? An arborist is not going to be able to look at the tree and tell you for sure it has citrus greening. I can't do that either. And my guess is Bernie would admit that he can't 100% identify it from looks either. We do have University of Florida's plant disease clinic. And if Teresa is still watching us, if you can pull them up and share a link for them, you could send a sample. You can contact them, send a sample off, have them test it. There is a charge involved. I believe it's $45. It may be different for citrus greening, so don't hold me to that. Plus shipping. There is one variety of citrus that you can get now that is greening resistant. So the tree will get greening. Now, if they test it, the test will come back positive for greening, but it doesn't damage the tree, doesn't hurt the tree, doesn't kill the tree, and doesn't stop it from flowering and fruiting either. So you're still going to actually get oranges off of it. And the name of that variety is Sugar Bell, Sugarbelle, all one word, I think. So, yeah, Teresa, if you could share link from the Plant Disease Clinic. And for anybody who has to know for sure in writing if your plant has a disease or not and which one it has, you would really have to contact them and send a sample to get it tested in the lab to say for sure. Bernie and I can look at it and give you our very, very best guess, and we're probably going to be correct the majority of the time, but I'm not good enough where I can lay my hand on a leaf or a plant and close my eyes and sense for sure what disease it has.
I think that
like that.
The
I think that
assumption,
fee's $40. I think it's $40.
$40? Okay, I thought it was either 40 or 45. And there's certain diseases where if you're getting it tested for that disease, it's going to be a different price.
the assumption pretty much at this point is if you have citrus, it has citrus greening.
Or it will.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the quickest simple test is the mottled leaves. If you have a pattern on the leaf that is not symmetrical about the mid vein, then it's probably greening. If it's symmetrical about the mid vein, then it's probably nutritional. And the recommendation here is that if you have a citrus tree and the fruit's good, even if it has greening, let the tree grow until it no longer has good fruit, and then get rid of it. It's pretty much all the citrus is going to have it, and it has generally a relatively short life. Any new citrus planted that makes it to 7 years has done really well. So don't worry about it. Just treat it as an annual almost, and don't spend a lot of money on citrus plants.
They're not cheap anymore. If you've looked it up anywhere that has a citrus tree for sale, oh my gosh, the prices of plants have gone up. And here, let's go ahead and let's see how well this works. A little visual aid of getting an indication from looking at your citrus tree leaves, whether you have greening or not. Let me add a little bit to my hideous artwork here. So if you look at one of your citrus tree leaves, and sometimes this is really easy to tell, other times it's just everything's mottled and you really can't tell for sure. But if you look at a leaf and you see if I can get this, yellow patches. So if that's a yellow patch, that's a yellow patch. Those are all yellow patches, and they're not symmetrical. So if you take your leaf and fold it right in the middle vein, if the patches are directly across from each other, probably nutritional. If they're scattered around the leaf more like this, that's a really strong indication of citrus greening. Well, like I said, we can't say 100% for sure is citrus greening. Those kind of things really have to be determined by a lab to say 100% for sure. And I see Teresa, for anybody who does want to get that done, Teresa shared a link to the University of Florida Plant Diagnostic Center, which, they are one of the biggest and best in the country and definitely in the Southeast U.S. They take samples from all over the Caribbean. some from South and Central America, other countries, and from states all over the Southeast U.S. They're one of the preeminent research centers for diagnosing plant diseases. So they can deal with a lot of different problems. Anybody can go ahead and go to their website and look at the information and send them a sample. There is a form you have to fill out. There is a charge involved. You have to mail it, either FedEx or Postal Service. You have to send it overnight. You have to send it on a Monday so they get it on a Tuesday, because you don't want it sitting in a hot warehouse over the weekend. By the time they get your sample, now it's going to be all nasty. They can't do a lot with it. But they do a fantastic job working mostly with growers, researchers, and people and groups from other states and other countries. Homeowners, if you really want to know what's wrong with your plant, know what the disease is, they are more than happy to help you out also, answer your questions, plate out your sample you send them. Teresa put a link up here with some information about, from just looking at your citrus trees, getting an idea of, is this probably greening? Is it probably nutrient? You really need to fertilize citrus trees with a quality citrus fertilizer. I would say very, very, very lightly every month during the growing season, because citrus trees are really fussy about their micronutrients. And if they get shorted on them, they're going to be unhappy. They're not going to grow well. So I don't see any other questions here at the moment. I think I caught them all. I guess this is kind of becoming the caper show, because Bassem says that there's Jamaican capers and they're not edible. Not too familiar with Jamaican capers.
Well, I don't know.
Colby, do you know anything about capers? Are they Florida friendly?
If they don't come in a jar.
I think people tend to, they tend to grow capers as to eat them, I imagine. And Florida friendly doesn't cover too much on the horticulture, like vegetable growing, edible growing. That's outside of my expert area.
And I see Teresa's putting up more links here for citrus and greening. So, hey guys, if you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like us to look up, discuss, we have Teresa in the background with us today. She's the one who, as soon as I say, I'm not really sure about that one, she's quickly looking it up and sharing a link with the actual answer to it.
With the rain we've been getting and the warm weather and everything, the grass has become a real problem.
Mine too.
If you mow it at 4 inches like you should, you should mow it again when it grows to 6 inches. And right now, every other day, it's growing an inch to an inch and a half a day. So that puts you in a position of having to mow every 2 days if you really maintain the lawn like it should be. So I have to admit, I let it go until it gets awkward to walk through, which is about a week, and then I mow it. So my neighbor is mowing every day, some part of the lawn, and I'm sure she's upset with the fact that I only mow every week to 10 days. But first place, I've got a lot of grass. That's a lot of money and nothing but gasoline.
Yeah.
It takes 5 gallons of gas to mow the whole lawn, and it is becoming a problem. The other day I mowed. I went out 2 days later and I measured it, and I had grown 3.5 inches in 2 days. So that is some pretty decent grass. I'm amazed how well this Bahia has done. So
Yep, the Bahia at my house is it's really shot up, and I'm not as good about it as I should be, but
So
yeah,
I tell
it
everybody
gets to
I'm
be a
letting
lot.
it go to seed.
So am I.
Yeah. Look,
I
do you see all
like
my
it.
seed heads I have up? I'm waiting on them.
Yeah, don't
What I
mow
will
it to
tell
seed it.
people, yeah, what I will tell people is, every day I drive to work. I live in Spring Hill. I drive through a bunch of houses in Spring Hill, there and back, and I see people with their irrigation systems on. I'm sure we're aware it's raining a lot.
Yeah.
It's raining a lot. It's rained pretty much every day, at least a little bit for the last week. Maybe we can consider turn your irrigation off. You know, until your yard needs it. Your yard will tell you when it needs to be watered. So during this rainy season, save some money, save some water. Uh, you know, maybe cut your irrigation off for a little bit. Because it certainly is not needing the extra water right now.
Had somebody in the other day that the HOA controls the sprinkler system for the whole system for the whole little HOA area, and they get water whether they want it or not, and there's
Yeah.
nothing they can do about it. So
Yeah, I had to go look at a neighborhood yesterday morning, and they have some of the patio homes where the neighborhood takes care of having the service go and cut their grass. They take care of their irrigation for them also. And if the lawn dies, I'm not positive if they have to replace it or they stick the homeowner with it. I'm not This is a neighborhood that I have not had to go and look at their lawns before. Oh my gosh, there's here. Matter of fact, I still have the samples here, Bernie, that I brought back. Nothing but take all, and more take all. And the lawn service is saying the reason behind the dead spots in people's yards is from the drought. I'm thinking, well, the drought's gone. It's been raining on a regular basis for a month or two. The drought may have triggered the outbreak of take all, and it's just kind of catching up and resulting now. But yeah, they have a lot of take all root rot, and
I
extra
really,
water is not going to fix that. It only makes your problem worse. I tell people, I say, look, guys, we're not growing rice. We're growing St. Augustine grass. It doesn't need 10 inches of water a week. That's going to kill it. That's going to make diseases worse. It does need some water every week, but St. Augustine during the active growing season needs about 1 inch per week. So if it doesn't rain and you water, you're almost all the way there. You're good.
yeah, but I mean, it's like I said, it's rained every day for a week. So right now, like we're getting an inch of rain a week, I think easily. So you know, maybe cut it off. I don't. I'm a big fan of the Bahia grass. Honestly, I think that it requires a whole lot less maintenance. You have less
Uh-huh.
disease issues, and I think that people, if you're going to replace an entire St. Augustine lawn and you're not restricted by your HOA on what grass you have to use, maybe consider doing a Bahia lawn instead.
And you have to remember to still cut it high. If you get Bahia grass, and I see people, and it's just because they don't know. And they go out there with their lawnmower Saturday morning and set it on the lowest setting and grind that lawn down to just the stubble. That
Mm-hmm.
will kill your Bahia, and you will end up with nothing but weeds, not even many weeds. Your lawn will look like the one, if you see the background behind our boxes here, that was a photo that was sent to me of what looks like maybe was a St. Augustine lawn uh, in the past, and is now pretty much dead, shaved to the nub. And the person that sent that photo in was complaining because they weren't allowed to water their lawn at will. They said, I just fertilized my lawn so it would grow back and look good. And how come I'm not allowed to water it today? Dude, if all you do is put down fertilizer, it ain't gonna fix that lawn. Fertilizer's not gonna bring your lawn back from the dead. and that's where their lawn is at the moment. So people just don't know. You cut your grass high. If it's Bahia, cut it high. If it's St. Augustine, cut it really, 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 really high. High. You can't cut it too high. Higher is better. It will look better. It will hold moisture better, so you don't have to water as often. If it's tall, it will shade out a lot of the weeds, the real low growing ones, because they're sitting in the dark beneath the blades. And it will resist take-all root rot much better. It's much less stressful on St. Augustine to be kept 4 inches high or higher. So there's no downside. There's no bad things that will happen to your St. Augustine if you cut it really high. Only good things.
Yeah, you have to remember, I mean, grass is not something that is a native plant. It's all foreign to Florida. So, uh, and the truth is, St. Augustine is not really a bad grass, uh, but it takes an educated person to maintain it. And it's the same way with uh, Bahia. Bahia has a tendency to fade out if you treat it like a northern lawn. If you keep it mowed all the time, uh, it will eventually look like the picture. Uh, so uh, Bahia is great if you ignore your lawn. If you're one of these people that doesn't do very much, and it ends up it goes to seed and it doesn't get mowed very often. Well, you by being lazy, you've done the proper thing for the maintenance of the lawn. But if you're in an HOA and you're trying to get by with that, they don't let you do that. So if you
Yeah.
know if you're in a situation where you have to have a really nice lawn, then you really have to have either a great education on taking care of lawns yourself, or you have to have somebody taking care of your lawn that has that education. And unfortunately, today I would be uh, totally impossible to recommend a lawn service that would do a good job of taking care of either lawn. It's just one of those things. Apparently, everybody that's unemployed and owns a pickup truck gets a hold of a mower and becomes a lawn care service. So, um, you know, the, the the people that need to take care of the lawn need and really have the knowledge need to make a really good income. And unfortunately, because the lawn is just sitting there and doesn't do anything for you other than look green, nobody wants to pay what the true cost of maintaining the lawn really is. So if you can't do it yourself, you can't hire somebody to do it, you're going to end up spending a lot of money in the long run, and that's too bad. What do they use on golf courses down here? That's a great question. They use Bermuda for the most part, and Bermuda has the ability to be cut a half inch, maybe even 3/8 of an inch high. Now,
Really short.
Bermuda, when you do that, requires some unique things. First, it needs to be mowed every day or every other day. It needs to be mowed with a real mower because it has to be very sharp. It has to cut at exactly the right height. You can't do that with a rotary mower. You need a man that really understands diseases so that he can go out and look every day and see if there's a disease forming. If you have a problem and you treat it within 24 hours, you can probably keep the problems from ever becoming big problems.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people have the ability to have a lawn professional come by and look at their lawn every day? They get 1 million gallons of water a day for the golf course, so they can water exactly when it needs it, and it needs it on a more regular basis. If you cut the lawn at 4 inches, an inch of water a week is great. If you cut the lawn at 3/8 of an inch or a half inch, you need like a quarter of an inch every day without fail. You miss one day, you lose the lawn. So, uh,
If you ever see a really nice golf course that looks where all the grass is
they
beautiful, it looks great. Just know that there is an excellent turf manager. somebody who
There's a
really,
lot
really
of
knows their
people and a
stuff.
lot of work that go into it.
Yes,
So
who's done
the
that,
turf
and the maintenance.
manager,
There's a whole bunch of maintenance people who are all just on their game, making it. It's a lot of work.
it's 2-year minimum degree just to become a turf manager. So if you want to work at a golf course and be the turf manager, figure that you're going to have maybe 5 years experience on another golf course and a 2-year degree. So you're looking at 7 years to get to maintain grass just so that you have grass. Now, you know, and yet homeowners get upset if they have to spend a day to learn enough to take care of it.
And then Bassem asks, what is the best lawn variety for a shade area? All depends, because shade is relative.
Mm-hmm.
Shade could mean
Sometimes.
a little bit of shade, more shade. If you have a large, let's say, oak tree in your yard and you've never had it thinned and it's very thick, shade underneath it can be like really, really dark at high noon. So in extreme shade, there is no turf grass that's going to grow really well. In a little bit of shade, all turf grasses will grow. It's just they're going to be thinner than they are in a sunny part of your yard. Technically, bitter blue is a variety of St. Augustine that does better in shade, but that's relative. If it's real, I've saw a lady's yard, and she had an oak tree and very, very thick. And if you stood underneath it at high noon, it's very, very dark underneath it. It's not speckled sun. It's not partial sun. It was really, really shady. And she put down bitter blue, and it did not do well at all because it was just too shady. So a little shady, bitter blue is going to do okay. Really, really shady, you're going to have to look for some other kind of ground cover, something more like ferns, caladiums, impatiens, something like that, if you want something to fill the area.
I was gonna say sometimes if it's a really shady area, the best turf grass is not a turf grass at all. It's you want some other kind of shade tolerant ground cover.
Yeah,
Bitter,
something else to
and
fill in the space.
bitter blue takes about 4 hours of sunlight a day. So if you're not getting the equivalent of 4 hours of sunlight, pretty much no grass is going to grow. Be healthy anyway.
Yeah, and if it's shadier than that, you can grow grass, but the shadier it is, the thinner your grass gets.
Yeah.
To a certain point where you just don't have any grass because it's just way too shady. You are welcome. So,
Did you
hey
plant
guys,
anything?
any other questions? Go ahead and put them in the comments. Let me go ahead and start showing some banners here, sharing some information.
Have you planted anything in the past couple of weeks?
Yes, I have started my seeds for tomatillas, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants for in the fall. So, I mean, they're all just coming up right now. The biggest ones, I have some eggplants that are inch and a half tall. So I'm starting those to put them in this fall. Some are going to go in the garden, and some are going to grow in containers where I picked up some compost from the Hernando County landfill that I'm going to work into the containers along with potting soil. So I'll have some information, shoot some video, and put it on Facebook about how well that works. But now is the time of year to get ready for fall. Start clearing out those gardens. Go out there and pull the weeds. And if you haven't done it for a while, they're about waist high. Start ordering seeds, planning out what you're going to plant. And for things that you need to start from seed to create transplants, now is a really good time to do that. Like I said, with tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. I like tomatillas. I've grown tomatillas before, and they make a fantastic enchilada sauce. You can look online for recipes. Very easy. You take the tomatillas, onion, hot pepper, this and that, put it in the oven, roast it for a bit, throw it in a blender once it cools, blend it all up. Really easy to make. You can can it also. So I'm hoping to get a ton of tomatillos this fall. And of course, I love tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, big tomatoes, all kinds of tomatoes. And hot peppers. Well, I'm growing some banana peppers because you just, eat them. They're not hot. And a couple other types of hot peppers that I don't already have um, dried and ground in my collection. So, and my garden is actually about halfway weeded and cleared, which is much better than it has been in past years. So I'll let you know when I get it totally cleared. But if anybody has any future questions, or if you're watching a recording of this, there is my email. If you ever want to contact Bernie, he is here on Thursdays. There is our office number. Teresa will most likely answer the phone, either Teresa or Mary, and patch you through to Bernie, and you can ask him a question yourself. We do have a freestanding webpage where we list all of our upcoming classes, and I do know that we are starting to schedule a few. We don't do a whole lot for a bit during the summer. Everybody's hiding at home in the air conditioning for a little bit, but I know I'm planning on my fall ones. We have compost classes coming up. So if you go to that little URL scrolling down there, Hernando extension, all one word.com, you're going to be able to see all of our upcoming classes. What else we got here? For anybody who is not following us on Facebook, please do so. We put a lot of really great information and videos, and we used to do a lot of Facebook Live, and we're going to start doing that again soon. A lot. I'm determined. I'm making you a promise that we'll get back on that. So if Teresa's listening, we're going to have to do it now. Please be sure to stop by our Master Gardener Nursery. Here's the address. It is right behind the Hernando County Fairgrounds, right along State Road 41 at the edge of Brooksville. Our Master Gardeners are there Wednesday morning and Saturday morning from 8:30 in the morning until 11. When we start to get into fall and winter, they'll be there till noon. Right now, it's just too hot. By 11 o'clock, they're closing the gate, kicking you out, and going home. So trust me, if you want to go by the nursery, try to get there very, very early. It's beautiful first thing in the morning. The weather is just warming up very, very quickly out there right now this time of year. And if you'd like to learn more about gardening, vegetable gardening, fruit trees, lawns, ground covers, trees, everything here in Hernando County, and most of that information would apply to other parts of Central Florida. We have a lot of videos. We have past recorded classes on YouTube. So Hernando County government has their own YouTube channel. If you go there and look through the playlist, there's a playlist for Florida Friendly Landscape, which is, by the way, Colby, and one for UF IFAS Extension, which would be my videos. Go there, watch them. A lot of great information. I know that I, over the years, have had a lot of really, really good guest speakers, people who are literally world-renowned specialists in their area. I had Dr. Whitaker on here talking about strawberries, growing strawberries for homeowners, and he's the University of Florida strawberry breeder, and he has bred all the new varieties of strawberries that they grew last year and are going to grow again this coming year. He helped to breed, so the man knows his stuff when it comes to strawberries. I could tell you about strawberries, but when he tells you about them, you can definitely put that in the bag. And here is Colby's email address. And if you want any more information on his upcoming classes, activities, everything else going on, if you go here, that's all of his stuff. People can email you through that also, right?
Yeah, there's a contact email. I think even
Okay.
my phone number's there if you want to give me a
Okay.
call. Everything, all the social media, everything is there.
Okay. So for anybody who is watching a recording of this, I had to double check the numbers for these recordings just yesterday, and we range between over 200, and a couple episodes got like about 550 views
Hmm.
after the fact. So people are watching us. Thanks, guys. We really, really appreciate that. If you didn't show up live and ask questions and watch this, we probably would have quit doing it a few years ago. So let me go through the questions here. Here's an
Tropical.
interesting one, Bernie. Is lobster flower plant can it be used as a ground cover?
I don't know. I'm not sure what a lobster flower plant is.
I think
Sure,
is it
Reef is
the
looking it up as we speak. It's similar to shrimp plant. It's different, but similar, if that makes any sense.
I would think that if it's same growth characteristics, that would probably be a reasonable ground cover. Uh, some of those ground covers tend to get away. They take off. They're very successful, and they go where you don't want them. But if it's not an invasive plant, there we go.
There we go.
Well composted soil, semi shade. What more could you possibly want?
Hey guys, if you want answers to your questions, maybe you just need to call Teresa. She seems to know it all.
she,
I,
she
I
does.
even have my plant species confused, and I defer to her.
One thing that I would like to point out, weed control right now. It's way too hot to do selective weed control. So if you have weeds in the lawn or weeds in a pasture, you got to really be careful because the things that are selective generally quit being selective when it's this hot.
Yeah.
However, if you have places where you want to take out the weeds 100% and don't care about being selective, you can't get a better situation than what we have right now. Everything is growing fantastically. If you go in with any of the products, the diquats, the uh, glyphosates, Roundup, those things work perfectly because the plants are growing so well. Anything you put on them gets absorbed and does its job really, really good. So
It does. I did it just a week or two ago, and boom, it worked fast and worked thoroughly.
So clean up around the trees, clean up along fence rows, uh, maybe a gravel driveway. You want to get rid of some weeds in a gravel driveway. Those kind of things where it's non-selective. This is the perfect time to go in and start getting rid of the weeds. So that
Because
is something to keep in mind.
when the plants are growing like that, they're taking up everything they can. They're trying to get and they're transporting everything they get. It's being transported throughout the plant. So you're getting really good herbicide spray. When it was so funny when I was doing invasive plant control, we would work way harder in the summer because it just works. It was, we got so much done. It was so hot outside. You'd think that we'd take it easy, and it's like, nope, we're hitting it really hard because, all the herbicides worked really well.
You go spray Roundup in March, and it takes 10 days before the plants really
2 weeks.
fall over.
I have to give it 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, but now you spray Roundup, 3 days, man, it's gone. It's 4 days, you got bare soil again. So it's really great. But that's non-selective. Under no circumstances use the selective weed controls now because with very few exceptions, they are damaging.
Yes, and every year we'll hear from at least a person or two who has done serious damage to their lawn. And even things like I've had several calls in the past, people with pastures, and they'll go out because they have Bahia grass growing there, they'll use 2,4-D. And it can volatilize and drift up in the air, so they'll apply it underneath a huge old live oak tree, and all the leaves are falling off the oak tree. Usually doesn't kill them, but can cause some pretty severe damage. So you don't want to be doing weed control in either your front lawn, your back lawn, your pasture right now. You want to wait till it cools off to do that safely.
Yep. Yeah. Remember that on your herbicide label, it'll tell you. It'll say,
Yep.
you know, don't you, or it says, it may change your characteristics if you use it. A lot of times it's 85 degrees. And we live in Florida. It's 85 degrees all the time. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, and don't think, well, if I go out really early in the morning and spray it, it's not quite 85.
It's gonna be there 2 hours later, I promise.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Lori says that she loves making salsa verde with her tomatillas. I have made it with my own homegrown tomatillas and ones I bought from, a produce stand or grocery store. Their tomatillas are easy to find, and it is really, really good. Good stuff.
Very good.
I did want to mention real quick. I know Bassem asked a question about ground covers in the shade. The FFL plant app on the FFL website, it's under resources. You can filter. If you go to the bottom, there's a button that says filter. You can filter and you can say, I want a ground cover that does okay in full shade, and it needs to be good for zone 9. You can filter out, and you can even put your soil pH in if you know that. You can filter it out all down. And just for instance, while we were talking, I looked up, zone 9 shade plants that or shade ground covers, and it gave me a list. I have 9 here, different species of plants, things like Kunti, Mondo grass, sword fern, things that came up that would do well in those situations, and it kind of guarantees you're getting it right from the source that these are Florida friendly plants. So if you don't really know, if you have plant questions where you're not sure what you want to put in there, this might show you some things you never thought of, because and these are verified by the university, the folks at the state office, on working under those conditions. So it's a really good resource. I think it's really the computer version of the FFL plant guide, the book. It's out of reach right now, but I'm sure that we've all seen. Yep, there you go.
Yep, there we go.
And it's also available on your cell phone or the internet browser. I tend to use the one on the computer because I think it's a little bit easier to work, but I have the one on my phone. I've used it out in the field before, talking to people. So if you click on use in browser right there, that's kind of, because it is, if you just start clicking on stuff, this confused me the first few times I used it. There's actually a filter button at the bottom that you have to make sure that you hit, because if you just search things, it's not gonna let you sort by the plant type. But it is a really good resource, is what I wanted to get at.
And I just went ahead and shared the link in the chat, so that should be showing up on the conversation for people to click on.
If you have a live oak tree in Florida, it would seem like the number one thing to have underneath a live oak tree would be azaleas. I mean, nothing says Old South like a big bushy bunch of azaleas all in bloom, and that is so pretty when you do that. And I mean, they're just made for each other. So something to think of. If you like pretty, and you like old fashioned, this is the way the South has been forever. Do the azalea thing. I'm kind of sentimental about that.
Yeah, there you go.
The problem is, if you want to plant
to Georgia
a bunch of azaleas and you have no trees in your yard, it's not going to work really well.
No.
And yet, it looks like Colby's got some old Florida behind him there.
Sadly, this is Augusta, Georgia, but it is Old South for sure.
Yeah. I was just going to guess that. They get azaleas up there. They just bloom a little bit later.
Yeah, Highway 19 over at Howley in the Hills. There's a lot of the old azalea bushes underneath the oaks It's just a beautiful drive.
Mhm. Out in Sumter County, there's a road. Couldn't tell you what the real name of it is. It's always been called Fortune Teller Road. That has some really old oak trees. You know, the canopy that reaches over the road, and there's some real pretty old oak trees with some azaleas down that road that have been there as long as I can remember.
It's kind of like Fort Dade Avenue being a canopied road. That really is pretty, and people that come here from the northern areas, that's the first awe thing that you run into if you stumble onto Fort Dade and the canopied street. Makes you feel like you're in a different part of the world, and you really are. That is a special, unique little thing that unfortunately we didn't have much like that up north. We had the covered bridges; they have the covered roads here. So
Okay, guys, if anybody wants to squeeze in a last minute question, I think we're going to wrap it up for this week. Hey, I'm going to be here next week. So
How about that?
I never know from week to week whether I'm going to be here on a Thursday or not. But next week, at this point, I am planning on being here.
And the same goes for me then.
Okay.
I'll even show up. What the heck?
Okay, guys, looks like we're all going to be back here again next week. So if you come across any lawn and garden, plant, water, insects related questions, go ahead and write them down, save them up, join us again, ask us live in person. If you are watching this as a recording, you can go ahead and ask your question in the comments. I will try to be more diligent about going back and answering those questions as people ask them after the fact, or email us, contact us directly. We're more than happy to answer your questions and help you figure out what your problem is, give you some ideas about how to go about solving them. Sometimes we have to give you bad news when it comes to your lawn or tree or something like that. Unfortunately, probably the worst example is, and people don't always email them to me so much. It's more, I see pictures on Facebook or Facebook groups. Someone will send a picture of a 100% completely dead palm tree. And they ask, what can I do for my palm? Should I fertilize it? Should I water it more often?
I started planning the
I'm
funeral.
thinking, have a funeral. It's too late. Maybe if you had, taken action earlier or managed it better. There are a lot of diseases that, if your palm tree gets a disease, it's most likely going to die for most of them. There's nothing you can spray or do to fix that. So sometimes we have to give you the hard, honest truth that, I'm sorry, your plant's probably not going to make it. This is probably what happened. This is how you can hopefully do better in the future. Cindy, you are very welcome. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week. And it looks like we're pretty much right on time. Good time management this week. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. And we will all hopefully see all of you again next week. And Buddy, you're very welcome. Be sure to tune in next week again. And we'll see you then next Thursday at 10 a.m. So until then, bye, guys.
Bye.